Hey guys, now that we're feeling a little better and everything like that, I was going to do that video on kind of fly and how to use it without being like detrimental to your team. I think I realized what happened was we started to use it mainstream as far as like every character goes, and then people just got into these kind of bad habits with it where even without fly, it's like what they're doing is like a bad thing. It's just fly allows it to kind of get like the issue exacerbated. So with that in mind, like the first thing is why do we use fly in the first place? This is the easy reason right here. Uh, 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 uh. That's what verticality looks like without fly. That's what it looks like with fly. And you don't even need to like hold it on the whole way up. You can target it and you keep a lot of momentum going up for like a couple seconds. And that's how when people had like Raptor Pack, like you could still get vertical ascension much faster than if you were just holding a super jump up. And why that's important is the next thing is whenever you're attacking a target, ideally you want to be attacking from above so that you can animate your one power and drop into the next. So what it basically does is allow you to chase them, because if you animate at the bottom of your thing, you hard root, and then you're not catching the second attack. So you want to be closing in from above to animate your two attacks. And if they're kiting you, which I can't do because I'm just solo thing, it's like you want to do one and then you do your second attack to kite it. So that's the big thing before is like, you had a turret caller going 3, 2, 1 fire. The problem was, and this is like imagine pre-fly days, is you get off your last spike, you try to get verticality, and then as he's calling it down, if he calls it down too fast, you're not that high up in your thing, and then you're kind of rooting down at the bottom. Or if he calls it down too slow, you're already falling, and now you have no way to like regain your verticality. Fly changes that, where it doesn't matter where he is in the countdown, you can always just pop yourself back up, or make sure you get your verticality faster, so if it's the next spike, you can be getting above your target and going in. The other thing you can do with it is you can kite attacks to like line of sight stuff like that. Whereas, when you're up high, you could do that. When you're down low, even like a fast thing like Blaze, you do root some. So it's like that's like fly gives like a lot of positives. The other thing being is like you can use more of the map. Having it as an actual thing rather than a resource means that people who want to try to chase you down and stuff like that, like you're not just gonna, you can play hyper evasive with it without worrying about running out of fly pack. Now, granted, like I said, if you're just doing like this where you're just micro toggling it on and off throughout the entire match, chances are you're probably not going to run out unless you make a couple mistakes where you leave it on for a couple spikes and that 45 seconds is going to go away. But again, the only reason it's 45 seconds is because the Renegades were convinced that there was like some sort of weird exploit going on, because people like HP would toggle fly on and off, 50 to 100, no, 150 times in a match, and they're like, he never comes down. It's like, well, yeah, he's actually toggling it for like a quarter of a second each time, so he's not, 4 toggles get you 1 second, so technically, do the math to see how much you can get out of 45 seconds, and you're not going to hit the ground that much. But, regular fly, now that it's faster, does let you ascend faster. It lets you move around faster, and it does let you go in the air. The big downside with it being is, like when you're on the ground, when you have it toggled, it just hard roots you, and that's like the worst thing you could do, because you always want to be floating your attacks to whether to kite them on target or, kite them away from the target. So you can kite that, and then, like I said, you're back here, so now you can see the entire offense coming on the next spike if you're the target between things. Now, I guess the problem with it is this is how people play with fly. Right here. This is terrible. If you're straight up above someone, it goes back to what's the thing you want to do with fly. The idea with fly, or the idea with like a spike, is you want to get above the target and fall down to throw your damage at them. So to do that, And if you're sitting right here, suddenly I have to be up here for it to be a good, for me to basically be in a good offensive position. Now, the problem with that is if I'm the target, everyone else has to be up here. And then this is the laddering I talk about whenever I say, like, oh, yeah, the entire offense is laddered. And that's what ends up happening. So this position right here, it doesn't do anything but force people to go up. And I get that kind of in the early days when like a lot of people hadn't spec'd into fly, you're basically burning their resource because previously when you had to go to somebody, you would have to like fly up to here, which would be like 1 or 2 micro toggles, like probably 1 micro toggle to get up to the height where you want to be to spike someone who's on the ground. But as people position here and higher, suddenly you have to burn a lot more jump pack. And whenever target calls, when calls are slow or people are slow to lock, like you're burning more toggles to get up here, so you're burning more resource. So in the early days before people actually ran fly, you could argue that there was an advantage to being this way. Now, it's still bad, but there was an advantage to it. Now that everyone has fly, it's just straight up bad. Why is it bad? Because you're up here sitting around and you're looking for targets presumably down here. Even with max FOV and stuff like that, you're not going to see anyone coming back this way. It's like if I'm coming from back here, you're not going to know it because you're literally right in the middle. This is literally the same as planning on the ground. It's just people aren't as good at using fly yet. So it's like it feels a little bit better, but your better players are still going to basically be coming from the outside to spike in. They're going to kite their attacks out, and then they're going to come back in for the next spike, because when they're out here, this is actually the place to be, because suddenly it's like, oh, if I want to spike Caradwen over here, I got to move towards them. And when I see someone moving towards me, boop, I'm out. It's like this is like the lazy turret position right here to assume like in fly. And this is where you see, I won't name any names, but this is where you see people like the joke is, oh, where's that target? Look straight up. And it has the one effect of being bad because everyone's going to be already flying, so you don't get the same tells. Like if someone's flying up like this, probably you're not the only person here. So it's not like you're getting information by seeing someone go up like this. Whereas if you're out here and you're going up, you're going to see. It's like I said, that it's much less likely because everyone's going to be positioned around the map. And as a offensive player, you can't really simulate this, but like you want to be able to see like, oh, if I can see 4 or 5 people here, that's enough. Like, you don't need to see the entire offense to be able to kind of discern what's going on. But just seeing that many, that's going to get you the information you need to like pre-evade a spike or be at least more aware that you could be target. But just being there in the middle like that doesn't give you any information. All it does is serve to ladder the offense. So if this is where you find yourself your position, you're basically one of the people who plays offense like this. You've got nowhere to go but up, and then the other thing it does is like it lets because most people evade with a John up. Like let's say we're down here fighting and I go in to spike and I throw my 2 attacks, but I didn't see I was target and I jaunt straight up. Yeah, now it puts you in a position to like throw damage at me. Sure, that's great, but it's like it's at the end of the day, it's not really good. Like I said, it might let you throw extra damage on a spike when someone jaunts up, but like 90 times out of 100, 95 times out of 100, that extra damage doesn't matter. All you're trying to do is make the Emps get a little bit behind. But the reality is right now, Emps aren't getting behind. We're not calling, 60, 70 targets. We're not putting that kind of pressure out. Like even where, you have a bunch of people throwing those extra attacks out there, like their 3 attack chains, that doesn't matter because half the people are playing nature, which can top themselves off. You're not going to solo them. So like that extra 3rd attack is just like a bad thing for you to do. And then it puts you in a worse position because you're animating more. And like I said, it makes you potentially late for the next spike because you're animating a whole other attack Like I said, technically, you can lock while you're animating it, but it's like chances are over the course of a match, it's going to make you worse trying that third attack just because you're up here and trying to catch someone at the top of one of their jaunts. You're like, oh, there they are. I guess this character has some jaunt range. But yeah. So that's like the big thing with it. If you find, and I guess here's like the thing, like your mental awareness for the day is, if you find yourself playing here, you're making it worse for yourself, but also your team. You can do the same thing, but better playing down here. Because you don't ladder your offense, so now you're not like all staggered out. You still have omnidirectional movement. Like I would even say like right here is not too bad. Like, as far as like the apex of a super jump thing. But just know that if you play higher than this, you essentially ladder the offense, because the person who's going to be targeting you is going to be trying to get above you to go down. And then if their target, the other people are going to be up here. So like I said, it essentially creates that laddered situation where you can do everything that you're doing here, but better, if you just learn to play out, go in, throw your damage, and then kite back to come back in again and throw your next spike. Hopefully that alleviates things. I want to say it one more time. I know it's repetitive, but like playing here, playing up like this is really bad. Playing down here, but like like I said, a little like we'll call it like where's combat jumping level height? Oh god, that's so small. Okay, so we'll call it like super jump level height. Playing like this isn't bad because then you can just basically go in on the target. Playing up here, you just create a laddered situation. So I think if we do that, we can kind of reintegrate fly. But it just has to be a conscious effort for the people who decide to park themselves up here to not do this. Like, it's like you come up, you come down, and you go back up here. But, anytime you target, you disrupt the entire offense. It's kind of like, I'm trying to remember what people used to do. There's something they used to do. Oh, it's like whenever you find yourself, like let's say you're playing way out and you see an early thing and you start to pre-evade. And rather than the target caller calling it off, they tell everybody to chase. The reality is if you pre-evade early enough, no one's going to catch you, because the second they take to animate, even if they like, my lag there. Even if they kite their attacks and everything like that, they lose momentum. Whereas you don't lose momentum when you do that first jaunt and then you start fly toggling to go around. You're just straight up faster. And that's one of the things, I guess it's a secondary thing that we need to be better about, is if someone pre-evades, you going to get that like OTP to like chase them to get that damage on is terrible, because it displaces everything. And not calling those targets off means that your entire offense is now out of position. So like if you see someone in the skybox like that and you call their name, just call a new target. Like if I'm out here like this, and I see someone start to come and you see me jaunt right away, or, for anybody, you see that's a bad target. Like, that's he saw it coming, we're not going to get that kill. Now, like I said, the tricky part is, on some people, you might get that kill. Like, I don't know what they do or how they move, but somehow they still get caught despite playing out there in no man's land. But, as a general rule of thumb, if you see someone out and they actually take the action to get out, it's probably a good idea to call that target off and call a new one, because you're going to have people who started out here and they're going to be late. You might have people over here that are going to get their attacks off. The people over here that did start off late are going to overchase because they want to get that OTP that doesn't matter. And now suddenly you basically disrupt you disrupt your offense, making it so that other people are late, other people are chasing. It's just bad all around. It causes a lot of bad side effects to it for not calling it off. And that's one of the ones where maybe that's why people play up like that, is because target callers are worse about not calling targets off. And like I said, granted, there are people out there who don't know how to evade, who don't know how to like break damage and not get caught. Like, the little like ups and arounds, like the little line of sights like that, where you're like, oh, you're here, and then like kind of the idea of the 3-dimensional map where you're flying and jaunting around. And it does get you kills, but it's like a bad thing overall. It's like the reality is like you should keep your offense more focused towards people that should get attacked rather than the person who's playing super floaty and like 19 times out of 20 not going to die because he's so far out already and he pre-evades. And that's something like to kind of break a habit of too, is if you see someone pre-evading, like let's say you're the countdown's like 3, 2, 1 fire, and they jaunt, you burning an offensive jaunt to get out after them is terrible, because what does it do? It burns your resource. You're not going to get the kill because your entire team isn't going to commit to that, because presumably, let's say like you were like the first person that was going to be on target, and it's like 3, 2, 1 fire, and that person jaunts out, which I was out of jaunts because I was messing around. But like that person jaunts out, the rest of your team's not going to commit. So it's one of those useless OTP stats. Like the best thing you could do is just get better positioning, come back down to where you're supposed to be, where you can see people coming at you, and then get ready for your next spike, rather than like burning a jaunt to go up and maybe throw off one attack to get damage that literally doesn't matter. But I guess that's my little rant on it. Don't, I guess for the 4th or 5th time, don't sit here and fly like this. Try to keep yourself at super jump level. That way, like I said, like someone like right now, Caradwin's technically above me, and because of fly, she doesn't need to be way above me, especially with like the faster animating attacks like that. Keep yourself at that level. Learn to play on the outside a little bit more so you can see spikes coming, and don't ladder the entire offense by sitting up here. If we can do that, I think fly elevates the game a lot, and it also like alleviates some of the, I don't want to say nonsense, but like just the bad habits that go with it, because it's to the point now where it's like people are so high up and they just don't toggle it off. You're just better off animating 2 attacks like that at hard animating than trying to make sure that you animate, and then toggle fly and then lose a lot of height, because the next person could be up here because the offense just keeps laddering up higher and higher. So it makes more sense to just keep fly on. And it's also part of a symptom of jaunt, of people using the single jaunt bind to jaunt straight up rather than having like a jaunt to camera bind, so they can do not necessarily lateral jaunts are a thing, but like the 45-degree ones I still think are the best, because it's getting you verticality and it's putting distance between the two of you. But yeah, long story short, for the 8th time now, don't sit here in fly. It's the worst thing you can do. And sit around here. Observe the fight, get in, throw your attacks, get out, get ready to do it again. And if you find yourself high like that, make a conscious effort to drop. Like pull back, drop out, come back in, and get on target.